and good evening, everybody. Today is Thursday, January the 28th, 2021. We are grateful that you have tuned in for another live streaming broadcast on this evening. I trust that you and your family are doing well, are maintaining safety precautions, and that you are doing all of the things that we have been encouraged to do, such as wearing your mask when you're going out and interacting with other people, also washing your hands as often as possible, and then maintaining physical distance of at least 6 feet. I trust that you are doing that so that we can kind of get a handle on this raging pandemic that has now mutated and has several other strands. However, we know that there is two vaccines that are out and are being used, and those persons who are in the categories 1A and I think some states 1B are receiving the vaccine. So please make sure that you are doing all of the things that are necessary as prescribed by your physician, as well as the directives that are coming from the CDC. Well, there's a lot going on, as you know. You've been keeping your ears to the ground, to the pavement, and you've been listening to the news. There's a lot going on in and around. I know we want to talk about it tonight. We want to talk about accountability matters. That's our topic tonight. Accountability matters. And so, why don't you take the time and reach out to your friends, your coworkers, your family, your neighbors, those who are sharing with us by way of Facebook. We trust that you have liked our page and share. We're looking forward to your comments tonight. Please accept the disclaimer from StreamYard, and that way, when your comments come through, we will be able to see them and we will put them up on the screen. We're looking for participation, interaction tonight from you, our viewing audience. We're so happy that you are tuned in with us and watch us on a weekly basis, and we are grateful for that. If you're watching us by way of YouTube, certainly we're hoping that by now you have subscribed to our channel. And yes, you have clicked the little toggle bell there so you will receive notifications each time we come on. Well, it's time that we talk about it and break it open. Accountability matters. Let's talk about it. Well, welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. I am your host, Reverend Edward N. Mason Jr. We will soon be joined by our co-host, Dr. Davis, on tonight's edition of Let's Talk About It, where we are talking about accountability matters. As we know, there seems to be so much going on in today's society, and it appears as if many people Even those who are in leadership do not want to be held accountable for their actions. We know that in this past administration, I have said that since we have a new president, worth calling a president, that I'm going to refrain from mentioning the name of the former administration. I will refer to him as the former president or the former administration. However, it appears as if folk don't want to be held accountable for their actions and for their deeds. I think it's important for us to know that accountability is a part of the way of life. We are taught accountability, most of us, if not all of us, at an early age. Even when we are young, we are barely able to walk. Mommy and daddy begins to hold us accountable for the things that we do. Even a baby, when they are in the playpen or in the crib and they're playing around and they're given their bottle and they throw it out of the crib or out of the playpen, mommy or daddy or someone may pick it up and wash it off and put it back in and give it to them again. And if they throw it out again, it's likely that they may not get it back. In other words, they are being held accountable for that bottle. And as we grow up through life, we go to school, elementary school, we go to kindergarten and right on first and second. And as we go through those grades, we are taught lessons of accountability. In other words, if you do your work, if you pay attention to what the teacher is teaching in the classroom, you will learn what is being taught. And then when it's time to take the test, you will be able to pass the test. However, if you do not want to pay attention and if you play around and find other things to do, and you're not showing responsibility, then accountability will find you at fault. You will not be able to pass the test when it is administered. Well, let me bring in our co host, Dr. Joseph Davis. Dr. Davis, welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It.
Thank you, Pastor Mason. I appreciate you bringing me back on again this week. As you said, as I was listening to what you were saying, we do have a lot to talk about. And I thank you for the word that you're using, accountability, because once again, that's something that seemed like we have lost over the years, is being accountable for what we do, accountable for our actions. And I agree with you that when I was growing up as a boy back in the 50s and 60s, once again, that's one thing that my parents taught me is to be accountable for what you do. Uh, Growing up in elementary school, we had some bad young men at the school, and they were always talking us into trying to do things. And my father and mother would tell me, listen, you got to be held accountable for your own actions.
That's
You
right.
can't follow somebody else because somebody else says it. You got to be accountable. Because once again, I'm going to discipline you to make sure you understand that, hey, you ain't going to follow, you're not going to follow anybody else and doing wrong. Now, if you do wrong, you did it on your own, but you're not going to be doing it because somebody else tell you to do it. So once again, they held me accountable because once again, my father said, listen, you carrying my name and I want you to respect my name. So once again, accountability matters. That's what I
Yeah,
want to say. It really matters.
it matters, Dr. Davis. And I think that if we had uh, more parents today that did the hands-on instruction and held children to the law of the land and the law of the house.
Right. That's right.
Sometimes the
That's
law of
right.
the house was more stringent than the law of the land.
That's right.
Uh, you
That's
know,
right.
uh, it is often said. Sometimes I hear folk talking about jokes and asking questions, and they say people don't understand. Some people don't understand what it means if somebody say, "What happens when the street lights come on.
Yep.
Back in the day,
You still
we
be
knew that was the law of the land. Mama said, when the street lights come on,
yes,
you
sir.
you better be in the house or at least on the porch. There
That's
was
right.
no such thing as you not being around, and don't let Mama have to come to the door and call you.
That's right. That's
That was
right,
the
sir.
law of the
Yes,
land,
sir.
Doctor Dave. That don't come don't let Mama have to come to the door and call you, because she was
That's
holding
right.
you accountable for doing
Yep.
what she had told you to do. She didn't mind you going outside and playing with the neighbors and your friends. That's something we don't talk about anymore. Kids going
Yep.
outside and playing. They don't know anything about that.
No,
Dr.
sir.
Dave, they don't know anything about the girls used to play jacks and bat and ball, and the boys used to play marbles. We'd be out in the yard, in the dirt,
Yep.
marbles, and then we had back in the day, if you didn't have a whole lot of toys, so they used to take wine bottle tops and they take and dig the tar up out the street and fill the caps of the wine
Yep.
bottle with the tar. And we used to shoot what they call scullies.
Yep.
Scully.
That's right.
Everybody didn't have a bicycle. Everybody didn't have a pair of roller skates. Well, back
That's
then
right.
they were the skates. Back then, Dr. Davis was ball bearings #5. Those
Yes,
were the
sir,
skates.
boy.
Boy, we had the little skate key that you put them on your shoes and you tied.
Yep.
You turn the key. Well, that's another show. But the bottom line is, our parents held us accountable
Yes, sir.
accountable. And we grew up with some morals. We grew up with a sense of pride, a sense of respect, because we were being held accountable for the things that we were taught and the things that we learned. And so we're going to show you accountability. Accountability. We don't want you to take our word for it. We're going to show you what the dictionary says about accountability. Accountability. Here it is. Here it is, Dr. Davis. Dr. Davis.
Yes, sir.
Thank God for technology. Technology gives us the ability to do these things and share. It says right here, accountability is the obligation to explain, justify, and take responsibility for one's actions. Then it goes on to say accountability is the state of being accountable.
That's right.
Accountable, meaning responsible for something or obligated to answer to someone, such as a person with more authority, like a boss.
Right.
Now, then it goes on to say this: the word accountability is often used in the context of individuals, especially in the term personal accountability. That means you have some responsibility
That's
personally.
right.
Then it goes on to say it is also commonly used in the context of institutions or people that are responsible to the public. And here's where we're going tonight. Such as
Yeah.
who? Such as the government,
Yep.
its agencies, politicians, and the media.
Yep.
Accountability is often discussed with what? Transparency and consequences.
Yep.
Oh, we're going to talk about that tonight. This typically involves keeping people and organizations accountable by making their actions visible. Notice the word visible, and having consequences when those actions are not acceptable. And then look at the example it gives. The system of checks and balances is intended to ensure accountability among the different branches of government. Well,
Yep.
well, 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 well. Man, Dr. Davis,
Yes, sir.
Isn't it
So, can I ask you
interesting?
a question?
Huh? You want to ask
Can
me a
I ask
question?
you one question?
You want to ask me one question? All right, come on with your
Yes,
question,
sir.
Dr. Davis.
The one question that I want to know is, where has accountability gone
Well,
in today's world? Where is it?
the answer is accountability has not gone anywhere. That's the answer to the
Okay.
question. That's the answer to the question. It has not
Okay.
gone anywhere. However, however,
Bring it on.
today's society and people choose not to either hold each other accountable or choose not to be accountable to something or someone themselves, which really
Okay.
brings about another word that we don't want to go into tonight. We don't want to go into that. Respectful.
Yeah. Okay.
Respectful. Because when you are accountable to someone, you are respectful to them. When
Yep.
you're accountable to your employer, you are respectful to them. You give
Hmm.
respect to that individual, that job, that company, even to the position. That's why we often say we don't necessarily, you may not respect the person, but you ought to at least respect the position that they hold.
That's right.
You got some people today that are working jobs that don't like the people that they're working for. They don't like their employers.
Right.
However, they don't try to do anything to get themselves fired either
Right. That's
because
right.
they
That's
respect the supervisor, they respect the president, the CEO, they respect the bosses, the persons who are in responsibility in leadership because they understand that they are being held accountable. And so, if you've been given a job, a task to do, then you are held accountable for completing the task or doing the job.
that's right. That's right.
So, when we look at the question that you've asked, which is a very good question, which raises a very good um, a thought, if in fact, based on the answer that I've given, if in fact accountability has not gone anywhere
Uh-huh.
and it's still there, where is the breakdown? And I think we found it. The
Right.
breakdown, number one, is in respect for holding ourselves accountable to whoever it
Yep.
is and whatever it is that we are tasked with. See, and then there's another word. We don't want to bring that word in too much tonight. Is morals.
Right.
Morals. We don't want to talk about that. When I was coming along, and probably you as well, my daddy used to say this: it's not a matter of whether it's right or wrong. It's the principle of the thing.
Yep.
See, our young people today, this generation that we live in, this age, you know, they don't understand principles.
Right. That's right.
They don't understand principles. Principles will steer you and guide you in doing what is right,
Right. That's
even
right.
when nobody is standing over top of you to hold
That's
you
right.
accountable for what you're supposed to do. See, when you
Yep.
tie all of those words together, accountability, responsibility, principles, morals, then all of that comes into the makeup of an individual's character.
Yep. That's right.
And so, what we find today is people and individuals who choose not to be accountable are individuals that usually have a character that is suspect or
Yep.
their character is flawed.
Right. Right.
And whenever you have a flawed character, whenever your character is suspect, you're subject to do anything.
Yeah. That's
Subject,
right.
you're subject to do anything. And so we
That's
have
right.
to understand we have to understand that all of us are accountable. And certainly it's not just here on earth, but God holds us accountable.
That's right.
That's why the scripture tells us that every man, boy, girl, woman, child, everybody is going to have to stand before God and give an
That's right.
account, which is the root word of accountability, give an account for the deeds that they've done.
That's right. That's right.
We are going to have to be held accountable. It's just like you and I. We are held accountable for making sure that we bring the right information, that we are both subjective and objective in our conversations, in our presentation, in the information that we share and disseminate. It is our
Right.
responsibility. Even on this live stream, let's talk about it. It is our responsibility to make sure that we are accountable to the persons and the people that view us every week.
That's right.
And so, my question to you is, what would make you ask the question, where is
Well, asked the
accountability?
question. I asked the question because I don't see where people are holding themselves accountable. They don't hold their uh, friends accountable. Um, I think you were talking about the government, the three branches of government. Seem like they're not accountable. And I'm just saying it at this point, I was trying to figure out where has it gone? What has happened to people having good moral sense to understand that they have to be accountable for their actions or what they do or what they say. They have to be held accountable. And the argument today is that they're saying that the president shouldn't be held accountable. The Republican who kept spreading the lie shouldn't be held accountable for the voter fraud and all this stuff. And they're saying all these people shouldn't be held accountable. And I'm trying to find out why not. Why they shouldn't be held accountable if they kept spreading the lie about voter fraud and kept spreading the lie about the election was stolen and all this kind of stuff. I think they should be held accountable. Now, maybe you can share with me what has gone on in the government that the system has broken down.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. And here is what I believe. Not just what I believe, what I have found based on what we are seeing played out in live, everyday um, pitches and movement. The people, the people themselves that we put in positions of authority are people that have, go back to the word we used before, that have poor morals.
Okay.
And when you have poor morals, then you are subject to do anything. Meaning, you are willing to circumvent the law, circumvent what is right in order to appease or to appeal to your friends and constituents. Your friends, your constituents, your base, your fan club, your followers. You are willing to do anything and everything to appeal to them. And especially if some of them, many of them, if not all of them, may be on the wrong side of the law. You're willing to circumvent the law because of you have low morals and low respect. You're willing to circumvent the law and go along with them or to lead them down a path because you like what you get from them. It could be money, it could be influential power, it could be prestige, And that's why we have to be careful of what it is that really excites us, what it is that really floats our boat. Because when you are driven by popularity, when you are driven by anxiety, when you are driven by money, when you are driven by power, prestige, and status, then you'll do anything to get that. You'll do anything to get that, even if it's
Hmm.
wrong. So when you do those things that are wrong, in order to maintain and keep what you're getting, then the more you get into it, it always leads you deeper and deeper and deeper in the hole. We know
Right.
what happens. We know what happens. Okay. For many years now, I'm not talking about just the last 4 years. Um, we can go back 6 years or more. We heard individuals talk about what they were able to do based on based on the people that they had following them, only to discover that many of the people that were following them were people who had morals themselves that were suspect.
Okay.
They had a lack of respect. And you know what the old saying that grandmother used to say? Grandma used to say, birds of a feather do what?
Flock together.
Flock together. Then grandma used to say this, if you lie down with the dog, guess what?
Yep. Gonna get
You're
up
gonna
with
get up with
fleas.
fleas. So what happens is people who like those things, people who like being being fanned and pushed and encouraged, people who like being stroked and their ego stroked, people who like those kind of things, they don't have a problem doing anything they can to get that kind of attention. They don't have a problem with that.
Right.
And until we get everybody to understand, until we get everybody to understand that we have to do our best at all times
Right.
to
Right.
hold ourselves accountable to what is right.
Right.
We must hold ourselves accountable to what is right. We must do it. And when we look at what is being done, what is happening in and around our nation, in and around our country, in and around the world, it's not just a United States thing. It's a
Yep.
worldwide thing. Folk don't
That's
want to be
right.
held accountable. And what they do is, if you're in certain positions, you have prominence, you have prestige, you have positions of authority and power. What do? They stack the deck and surround themselves with people that can give them what they want to hear.
Right.
And so, what happened? We had an individual who ran for president who even had the audacity to say, even before they became president, I can shoot and kill somebody in Central Park
Yep.
and never go to jail.
Yep.
They said
That's
we're
right.
going we're going to go in, we're going to run for office. I mean, after all, when you look at how they were raised to never say you sorry,
Yep. That's
never
right.
admit defeat. When you raise that way, you automatically are raised with a sense of low morals. And then when you're
Yep.
able to do all the kind of things to take advantage of people, when you're able to discriminate in housing, don't want to allow blacks to rent your apartments in your high rise. Don't want to hire certain people. And then when you hire people, you don't want to pay them.
Yep.
Then you start companies and then you foreclose so you don't have to pay them.
Yep.
I mean, all of these things are indications of low morals. Low morals. Yes, that's the low morals. All of these things are indications of low morals.
That's
And
right.
then when you surround yourself with people that can fan your flame and stroke you on the back and give you all of the pets and encouragement and tell you how well you're doing and how much they like to see you do well.
Yep.
Understand, if everybody in your circle is people that are stroking you and confirming you and telling you how great you are all the time, and nobody ever tell you wrong, and nobody ever tell you that wasn't right, that you surrounded yourself with the wrong people.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And
And I
we
think that's what
go ahead, go ahead.
and I think in agreement with you, I think that's what's wrong with um, the government today, uh, starting with the president on down. I just think it's so much foolishness that's going on that they have stroked this man, and now all of a sudden, uh, in his book, he can't do no wrong because wrong is right to him.
Well, as we know, throughout the entire presidency of the former administration, throughout the entire presidency, it is documented and fact checked of the
Yep,
numerous amount of lies that he has told. Then he surrounds himself with cabinet members and people that will tell him what he want to hear rather
that's right.
than rather than what is right. He
That's right.
surrounds himself with people like that. And then he does things, and then many people don't want to hold him accountable for the things that he said and the things that he done. I mean, even when the video was released, when he was running for president, when he was on the tour bus, talking about
Yep,
grabbing women and doing these kind of things, and when he would go into the dressing room because of the Miss America pageant, and he'd walk in there and they'd be totally naked, and he'd walk around and stuff, and they would, all of these things, and folk wouldn't tell him that he was wrong, and his supporters, and even
yep,
some of them were evangelicals, his
yep.
supporters
That's
said,
right.
well, okay, well, we're gonna give him a pass. Well, that
Right.
wasn't that
That's
wasn't
right.
that bad.
Right.
And what did they do? They voted him into office, and
Yep.
they did not want to hold him accountable. And now
That's
here's
right.
the thing, Dr. Davis, when you go back and listen to most of the people that was in his party, the things
Right.
that they were saying about him when he was running, about how terrible he was, and what Lindsey
Yep.
Graham said about him, and what Mitch McConnell said about him, and all of those Republican persons that talked
Yep.
about how bad he was and how he wasn't fit to lead our country. When he
Yep.
got down to the place where he was the leading contender, what did they do? They all rallied behind him to support him.
Yep.
Why?
So it
Because
goes to show you what kind of character they had.
exactly. That's why it is often said, if show me your friends and I can tell you what kind of person you are.
Yep.
Show me your friends and I can tell you what kind of person you are. Well, while we're talking about accountability, and I know the clock continues to tick tock, I want to show you one of the persons that we are dealing with about in this situation about being accountable. Right now, there is a big to do in the Congress.
Yes.
Congress,
Yes.
for those who are not aware, you have the House of Representatives, then you have the Senate.
Yep.
Those are the two co-equal branches of government that are housed in the Capitol. They're on two different ends of the building. And when they are working together in unison, they are called the Congress. The Congress is the name for both groups that when they are working together, they're in Congress.
Right.
Uh,
That's right.
right now, you have the Republicans and you have the Democrats that are at odds with each other over some of the things and statements that some of the persons have been saying and doing. Now,
Exactly.
we're talking about accountability. Let's look at this. Let's look at this video.
Gun owner. I have a concealed carry permit. I carry a gun for protection for myself, and you are using your lobby and the money behind it and the kids to try to take away my Second Amendment right. You don't have anything to say for yourself? You can't defend your stance? That was David Hogue right there. David, we saw him inside the Senate building. He had 30 appointments where he ran around and got to talk to senators. I got to talk to none. He had media coverage all over the place. I had zero. Guess what? I'm a gun owner. I'm an American citizen.
Now, Dr. Davis, what we have here is a representative, a member of the House of Representatives
Yep.
that is linked to QAnon.
Well, she's one who started it.
Yes.
She's one of the ones who started QAnon. And back in 2015, she started QAnon, and she started the rumor that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton was sex trafficking. I mean, she started these rumors and these lies and what have you. I mean, it was just crazy. And it was all on Facebook, YouTube, and everything about Hillary Clinton and all this kind of crazy stuff that the Democrats sacrifice children, kill and sacrifice children. I mean, she started all these rumors.
And now she is in the House of Representatives.
Yep.
And she's attempting to violate the laws of the chamber by bringing a firearm on the floor.
Yep.
Several times she's tried to get through the metal detectors, since now they've instilled metal detectors for entryway
Yep.
into the chamber since January the 6th, and several times she's tried to get in with her firearm, and it's against the House and the Senate's rules to have
That's
any
right.
type of firearm or weapon on the floor,
Yep.
and she's fighting the rules.
She's fighting the rules, and she tried to have um the police, Capitol Police that's controlling the Capitol House after January 16th. She's trying to get certain police fired because they won't allow her to go in with the firearm. They told her she have to leave it out here. And she's trying to convince them, well, I got a permit to carry. And the guy said, I don't care. We got rules now since January 6th. Nobody's allowed to come in here, especially going to chambers with firearms. So you got to leave it here at the door and pick it up later.
But see, that rule, Dr. Davis, is not a new rule. That's been a standing rule.
Exactly.
That's a standing rule. What they are allowed to have a weapon on them when they're in the halls, providing
Yeah.
that they have a permit. But no one at any time is allowed to have a weapon or firearm on them when they're on the floor or in the chambers. And
Well, they
so
were trying to change it.
she
So
is fighting them, and to make matters worse, what we saw in the opening clip where she was harassing this young man, this
yeah.
this, this young man was one of the survivors of the school mass shootings.
Yes, sir.
He was a survivor. He was there in the school when the shootings took place. He had friends that were killed.
Yep, that's right.
And what he was doing was going to the Capitol, and he was talking to the members of the House and Senate, trying to get them to understand the need of blocking firearms and putting certain things in place. She
Yes.
had the audacity to harass this young man. Now she's a grown woman,
Yeah,
and she's
that's right.
harassing this young man for exercising his right, and he was given permission. He was given appointments. He was given appointments by
Yeah.
these persons. So he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was given appointments to go and meet with them and to discuss his issue and state how he felt about it. And she
Right.
had the nerve to harass them. Not only that, but then some of the things that she posted on Facebook and on her Twitter page, about killing Nancy Pelosi, putting a bullet in her head, and all of
Yep.
this kind of stuff. And the leadership of the Republican Party had the audacity, knowing all of this information, had the audacity to put her on the committee for education.
Yep.
And when he was confronted about her, he said, well, he was going to have a talk with her. Again, accountability matters.
Yep.
So those words that we talked about surrounding accountability, such as morals, such as respect, we know, based on what we have seen, based on
Yep.
what we have witnessed, based on what we have heard, we know where they stand.
Yes, sir.
We know where
Yes,
they
sir.
stand. Even to the
Yes, sir.
point after they had the insurrection on January the 6th, and many, many people were hurt. Some people lost their lives. Some of the police officers were severely injured as a
Yep.
result of that. I know one police officer, I think it was two police officers, since then has committed suicide.
Yep. That's right.
They're not talking about
That's
that.
right. Yep.
They're not talking about that.
No,
And
they
now,
don't want you to know that.
and now you've got one of the Republican members, I don't know whether it was the House of Representatives or the Senate, has said he's not going to run when his term is over. He said because
Right.
this is not the party that he was used to, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with what's going on, even to the point when they did the impeachment and they had 5 Republicans.
Yep.
When the question was asked or the rule was placed that it was unconstitutional to hold the ex-president accountable, there's that word again, accountable, they said they didn't believe it was constitutionally right. And only 5 members of the Republican Party crossed over and said, no, we think it is right.
Right.
45 people
Yep.
stuck with their party, even though they knew what was being done was wrong. And you know what they say, Dr. Davis?
What's
They say
that?
the new president, President Biden says we want unity. So they say, well, we got a new president now, so and he says he wants unity. So let's just forget about what happened. Let's just let it
Right.
ride.
Right.
Let's just let it
And,
ride.
and that's the problem of America. That's one of the problems of America because we've been letting it ride too long.
Letting it
We've
ride.
been letting it go too long.
So in other words, we don't want to show no accountability.
Exactly. Because we
And
definitely
those,
don't want to bring unity.
well, I mean, my thing is, if a deed is done that's wrong, shouldn't there be accountability?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's
Absolutely.
why certain laws in the land says for some things there is no statute of limitations. In other words, no matter how far back you did it, we can still hold you accountable if we found out that you did it, regardless
Right.
of how much time has passed, because there's no statute of limitations on this particular thing.
Right. That's right. And see, the thing about it is this, getting back to what you said about this man, 45, before he became in office, all these Republicans knew the kind of person he was.
Yes, sir.
They talked about the kind of person he was.
Yes, sir.
Then they put him in office, and now they want to give him a pass. They let him keep on. And the whole time he's been president, he done told 30,000 lies.
Documented.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And they and now he's out of office, and they scared of him, and
Yep.
the minority Republican leader went to Florida today to have a meeting with him, and to say he went to kiss his ring to make up, to try to get back in good graces when he originally said that he thought that he had some responsibility to the insurrection, and then he
That's
turned
right.
around and changed and said, no, he said everybody had some responsibility.
That's right. And he absolutely right. Because I think all those Republicans, when they did their first impeachment, all those Republicans decided not to bring this man out, or not to suspend him and move him out of office. All of these Republicans said, we found, what he did was wrong, but not under the grounds of dismissal. And that's what they said. All these Republicans.
My problem, Dr. Davis, is when it comes to right and wrong, it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat or independent or no affiliation. If you're wrong, you're wrong. And you should be held accountable for your wrongdoing. Well, I'm going to show you another video of another one of your good friends. You ready?
Yes, sir.
It's one of your good friends. This was a CNN report.
Sedition caucus. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, who pushed the big lie so far that he took it all the way to the finish line and even past, pushing the big lie just before and even after a mob broke into the Capitol in the very chamber where he championed the baseless claim that President Trump won the 2020 election. You probably remember this photo of him, Hawley, outside of the Capitol, where he had gone to show solidarity with Trump supporters gathered outside before they forced their way inside the building. Well, he's now denying any role in the riot. Quote, to equate leading a debate on the floor of the Senate with inciting violence is a lie. It's dangerous. Hawley was the first senator who vowed to object to Joe Biden's win, and now he complains about how a publishing company dropped his book deal in the wake of the Capitol siege, going on Fox and writing op-eds that he's a victim of cancel culture. That's right. The guy complaining about not having a platform goes on national television. I mean, just look here. He goes on the Senate floor and he writes columns that get published to complain about not having access to platforms. And yes, he does it all without irony. He writes, quote, the alliance of leftists and woke capitalists hopes to regulate the innermost thoughts of every American from school age to retirement. After Joe Biden's inauguration, he's also developed a reflexive tick of voting no on practically everything. The Senate confirms Anthony Blinken as Secretary of State, 78-22, Hawley's a nay. The Senate confirms Janet Yellen as the first female Treasury Secretary, 84-15, Hawley's a nay. The Senate confirms retired General Lloyd Austin as the first African-American Defense Secretary, 93-2, Hawley's a nay. And of course, Hawley also voted against the waiver to speed up Austin's confirmation. The Senate confirms Avril Haines as the first female director of national intelligence, 84-10, Control F nay for Hawley. And of course, he voted against proceeding on impeachment proceedings and on the point of order about whether the trial was constitutional. The only two things that he's voted yay on, challenging the electoral vote count of Arizona, which happened hours before the insurrection, and challenging the electoral vote count of Pennsylvania, which happened hours after the insurrection.
Only two things, Dr. Davis.
Yep.
Only two things. And he is someone else that they are failing to put any accountability and check into. All I'm saying is we have a problem with the leadership of our country. We have a problem.
Yes.
We have a problem. There is a poem, Dr. Davis. And I'm sure you've heard of the poem. There is a poem that was written some years ago.
Right.
A poem some years ago that was written, and I'm trying to find it to pull it up. The poem talked about truth forever on the scaffold.
Right.
Do you remember that poem, Dr. Davis?
It sounds familiar.
It talked about truth forever on the scaffold, right forever on the throne. That was the poem. Trying to see here.
Right.
And it talked about how during what God holds us accountable for.
Mm-hmm.
God holds us accountable.
Yep.
God holds us. God holds us accountable. Hey, here it is. I've got it. God holds us. God holds us accountable.
Yes, sir.
The poem. This poem, Dr. Davis, is written by uh, James Russell Lowell,
Okay.
and the poem is entitled "The Present Crisis."
Okay.
It's entitled "The Present Crisis," and I encourage all of our viewing audience to Google it, pull it up. If you would like to have it, or you can't find it, reach out to me, and I'll see to it that you get it. But way down, Dr. Davis, in the poem, he writes these words: "Truth
Right.
forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dims unknown standeth God within the shadows, keeping watch above his own." Truth forever on the scaffold, truth
Yep.
forever on the scaffold, wrong
Yes, sir.
forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadows, keeping watch
Keeping above
above
his
his
own.
own. I tell you, Dr. Davis, I tell you,
Yes, sir.
and then there's so much more in that poem, so much more in there, so much more in
Yep.
that I think it is important for us to understand. Truth ought to mean something.
Yes, sir.
It ought to mean something, Dr. Davis. Truth ought to mean
Absolutely.
something.
Yes, sir.
Accountability ought to mean something. And we can no longer afford, I mean, we couldn't afford it then, but we can no
That's
longer
right.
afford to just sit back and be idle and allow things to pass and go by and we act like they nothing to it.
That's right.
We can no longer afford that when we see what's happening in and around our world, our nation, our cities, our states, our country. When we see what's going on,
That's right.
when we see what's going on, and 9 times out of 10, this trial is going to happen for this impeachment. The Republicans are not going to vote to impeach him, and that means that that means that the previous administration leader will have no accountability placed on him for the deeds that he's done, the people that have lost their lives, the people that have been injured, the people who have been marred, and all of the people that he led. Oh, Dr. Davis.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Somewhere
Yes,
along the
sir.
line, we have got to be accountable for the deeds that we've done. We've got to. And we've
Yes,
got to
sir.
hold our elected officials accountable. We've got to hold ourselves accountable, not just our
Yep.
elected officials, all of those who are in positions of authority,
That's right.
even to the point of the people that's in charge of the household, our parents.
Yes.
Parents need to be held responsible for making sure they teach their children the
That's
difference
right.
between right and wrong. Not only teaching them the difference between right and wrong, but helping them to understand that when you do wrong, you are going to be held accountable for it.
Yes, sir.
On the other hand, when you do right, you'll also be held accountable by being rewarded.
Yes, sir. That's right.
As you know, as you've heard, the young lady who gave did the poet on,
Yeah.
she has received, from my understanding, she has received a job offer. Well, she's been received several job offers. Morgan right here, Morgan, HBCU here in Maryland, offered her a position at Morgan. But from
Wow.
my understanding, she did sign an agreement with a modeling agency.
Oh, okay.
So she has received a job where she will be rewarded for her work. Well, Dr.
Right.
Davis, our time is up. Our time is up.
Yes, sir.
It's been a wonderful
It,
show. Thank you to all of our viewers, those who have sent comments, those who have written. We encourage you to continue to correspond with us. We encourage that you can write us, uh, email us. Yes, let's talk about it. The number 1 at gmail.com. We encourage you. We're listening for you. We are grateful for all of you who have participated. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of it. Remember, accountability matters. The things that you do
yep.
matter. Any final words, Dr. Davis?
I just wish everybody to be safe, take care, and remember that we have a new strain of virus coming in, so they're asking everybody to double up on your mask. When you put it on, just don't put 1, but put 2 on, and be safe and live well.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Great having you sharing with us as our co-host. To you, our viewing audience, thank you. We're grateful for you. We couldn't be what we are without you. Stay tuned. We've got some exciting things coming along, and we're going to be happy to share them with you. Until then, always remember, we're here. What are we doing? We are talking about